WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. It is one of our favorite times of the week where I get to catch up with this guy. And I used to say 99 years, but it's 100 years. Bill Cole, this is a special week. And I know I invited you over to my place. I'm having a little some get-togethers here for some friends. But my father's 100th birthday is Tuesday, March 5th. And I know you're an old school listener, a young old timer, as Stedman would say. If you remember the first, 15, 16 years of my career, every March 5th was Father's Day, and every March 5th, everybody would cry and call and talk about their dads and all that stuff. But that was way back in the 90s and at the beginning of the century. But I know you guys have been here 100 years, and we're trying to get to what have we learned here. What I've learned is you probably shouldn't go to the spa if you're a billionaire in Jupiter, and they've got the FBI sting going on. Welcome to the show this week, Bill. How you doing, man?
Thanks, Beth. I'm good. I have a genuine appreciation for things that are 100 years old, and I do remember the old days when we used to call and talk about our fathers. So those are all good memories. I don't know. I think it's a really public world we live in today, and I never cease to be amazed at people who fail to remember that.
Did you see the piece this week in Chicago about tracking down Jussie Smollett's situation? And I don't even know who the hell Jussie Smollett was a month ago. I don't care who he is. But what I did learn, and I thought was awesome, was the surveillance system that we live in now, where the streets, the residents who get a tax rebate if they have a camera on the outside of their building and are willing to share it with police if a crime is committed on the street, right? That we are in a surveillance state here where we should be safer. I mean, I'm not saying, look, it's not the Philippines, right? But you would think that this idiot, Jussie Smollett, wouldn't do what he did, where video cameras and personal checks and text and like all the stuff that the Orange Menace is going to have to face here coming forward very, very soon, which is you can only lie for so long, you can only send the text so long, but there is a surveillance state that we live in here where there's sort of a state of checks and balances on the streets with when you get in the car and you just go to the mall, you have no idea how many times you're being tracked in the modern society, right?
Yeah, I think I've seen that movie 100 times. I kind of always thought it was just in the movies, but yeah, the deeper you dive, the more you realize that, well, besides the fact that you're carrying like a personal tracking device around in your pocket all day long,
absolutely.
And
they couldn't link Aaron Hernandez to the murders or anything. He was only like geolocated there, right? Like,
right, yeah.
Crazy.
And it's all, everything that gets brought to the public is brought with the best intentions, but I guess I have a bit of a conspiracy theorist in me, and it just scares. It's like, yeah, we're incentivizing people to put cameras on their house, but, like, isn't that all part of the deep state conspiracy that we're all scared to death that someday they're all going to come around and collect us because we are not voting the way they want? Or, it's like it's kind of scary how easy it'll be one day for them to just paint you in a certain picture based on your search history and where you've visited and the things that you've bought from Amazon, and, oh, you're one of those people. Yeah, well, we all you people need to go over here, and if you did this and you did that, then you get to come over here, and we're going to make all you plumbers, and you have to fix all of our water pipes, and yeah, it's scary if you allow yourself to have that conversation.
Go down that rabbit hole. Bill Cole is here. Cole Roofing, of course. They've been doing it for 100 years. Bill's been my friend for almost 100 years. You mentioned the weirdness of movies. I remember Sliver, right? Like the videotapes and all that. But look, let's get on to Bob Kraft and get on to sting operations and get on to human trafficking, which is where this story has gone, right? So it is a fascinating way that sports, Bob Kraft winning the Super Bowl, cheating to do it many, many times, crying over the loss of your wife, parading around 30-year-old and 20-year-old women at owners' meetings that I tweeted about and wrote about in the big game, but then like coming out of a strip mall brothel when you're a billionaire, trafficking Chinese slaves, essentially. What a story this week for America, huh?
Yeah, I mean, if just to take it on the simple sports side for a second, like, I'm curious to see whether the other NFL owners are really just about the money, in which case they'll all just keep their mouths shut and this will run its course. Or if they're really tired of losing to him, then now's their chance where they're going to get rid of him. So I just on the simplest high level, I'm curious to see how that goes.
You want to see where he relates into Donald Sterling sort of and Jerry Richardson realm of, dude, you're getting older. Yeah, you know what I said? And Dennis Colossus and I had a conversation about this earlier this week, too. By the way, you can find that at the buyatoyota.com audio vault. I said he sounded a little drunk after the game, right? That the night of the Super Bowl. You start to think maybe like, Peter Angelos doesn't come out anymore, right? And, Pat Bowlen doesn't come out anymore. And, there may be a point where something's wrong there. I don't know what, I don't know, but this certainly was not a wise decision, and I thought the weirdest part of it in the modern era, to your point, it's a surveillance world. We go back to the beginning of this, right? Like if you get caught and you have a gotcha moment and you sent the picture of your penis on a text to someone, if you did that, you're probably better off to fess up and say, I did it, I effed up, I screwed up, and ask for the apology. I mean, I mentioned Marv Albert and how many other people, David Letterman, went back and worked, and how many Matt Lauers will never work again, right? But in the modern era, but the least you could do when you get caught is say, I really screwed up there. Let me fix it. Especially if you're a billionaire and you're not going to jail. Dude's not doing hard time, right? Dude might get thrown out of the league for a year. They might force him to sell his team and all that. But don't you think it's a lot worse over some really weird misdemeanor here that you could probably write a check, do some community service, do some good for the world, go home, pray about it, think about human trafficking, think about your wife's death, think about what you represent to the league, and just say, you know what? I did it. Why wouldn't you do that? I mean, the first thing they did was issue a press release saying he didn't do it, and now the FBI's come out twice and said, dude, we kind of have the pictures of it all, you know what I mean? We have the mushroom clouds, if you know what I mean. And I that's the amazing part, that he just doesn't say, I did it. I mean, I don't think any of us guys think it's the worst thing. Although I've never been in one of those joints, and I kid around with my wife about it all the time, but I've never until this week thought, those girls are slaves. Those girls are modern. Those girls are being entrapped. Like, I honestly hadn't thought a lot about that because I haven't thought a lot about going in one of them, over the last 25 years. But, boy, it's a little bit of a wake-up call, right? I mean, a little bit like...
Yeah, I mean, I think the frustrating part for me, and look, do whatever you want with the Bob Kraft story and let that run its course. The bigger issue is that I don't want, like you said, like the realization that people are coming to about some of the bad stuff that's going on in this world, that we all live in our little bubble and don't really understand, or, and no one talks about it. That gets lost in the story a little bit here. And if Bob Kraft wasn't wrapped up in it, we would have never heard about the sting operation. We would have never heard.
Well, that's all the more reason to not just make a fool of him, but for him to not continue to make a fool of himself by running around at Oscar parties on Sunday night and snogging with Tommy. And I mean, it's been a disgusting week for him, quite frankly, and it would have been a lot less of a disgusting week if he just would have on Friday said, you know what? The police have come to me. I'm going to do everything I can do to eradicate human trafficking, like that $100,000 check I wrote last month, because at some point he's going to have to come out of the closet and do that and say that, because the league's going to have to do something about it now, right? Like, this is a PR blunder on top of a blunder on top of a blunder, and every day I wake up to see the Palm Beach FBI step back out to say, dude, we have video. You may want to change your position, and you're not going to get off because you're Bob Kraft. I mean, the dude running the government right now thinks he's going to get off because he's always gotten off. And to your point, in this surveillance state, when you have the video, I'm blown away by it. I really am, and I'm going to be monitoring how the league reacts to this because I know how they reacted to a knee. I know how they reacted to Colin Kaepernick. I know how they reacted to Ray Rice. I know how they reacted to Terrell Suggs. I know how they've reacted to all of these things. How are they going to react to this? Because this is pretty bad. I mean, this is pretty seedy, and it's even seedier to be a denier at this point,
Yeah, I mean, there's some element of, like, this weird psychological thing that occurs for him. Like, he clearly doesn't care what anybody thinks because it's real easy for you and I to paint a picture of, like, no, Bob, you're how much money are you spending annually to support causes, whether you believe in them or not, right, but just part of the machine. And this money's got, and here's an opportunity that now that you've become aware of something, like, who knows what he knew and what he was really doing, and it doesn't matter. The point is, in public opinion,
I would have never thought 20 years ago to walk into one of those places and think about where they came from. Right? I don't know that that's the psychology that goes on when you pull in and park the car and go. I mean, in any instance, I don't know that that's the psychology. I think beginning last week, a larger cross-section of America, right? People like you and me and people listening to my voice right now and listening to me for 30 years that, let's say one of those places came to me and asked me to do a radio spot or put an ad in the Baltimore Sun. We've never seen anything like that, right? Or in the City or wherever, right? Like that. I don't know that 20 years ago I would have thought about it in those terms. I will never unthink about it the same way again now, right? Like, so
sure. The simple question is, okay, so a guy that owns a shopping center asked me to re-roof the shopping center. On what level in our society am I supposed to inquire as to the activities of the tenants in the building?
Yeah, would you let a drug dealer be your tenant? Maybe.
Yeah,
depends on what time of the month they paid and whether they paid by check or cash, right? Depends on who you are, right?
It's a very complicated, but the simplest thing is now that he's here, like, it's very easy for you and I to come up with a plan that while trying to fix your reputation because you screwed up, you're also doing, significant good in the world. And it's like nobody argues about the validity of terribleness of human trafficking, right? So take some of your billions and go and help, arm these police forces or talk with the federal, whoever the stakeholders are that can help deal with this issue. And, I mean, what else does the guy have to do? He still has Brady. He doesn't need to pay any attention over there.
Dude, he doesn't have a job, right? I mean, he doesn't go to work,
That's what I mean. Like, what else are you working on?
He wears loafers and hangs out at the Asian spa, around the corner, and literally, and flies on his jet, gets a Hummer at 11 in the morning, leaves from there, zips up, goes to the Learjet place in Palm Beach, flies off, and 6 hours later, he's going to the Super Bowl and kissing Tommy and waving and going to the next Oscar party and, moving along the earth and denying anything other than writing a check for things and waving to people. This is a real chance for the NFL. And hey, bro, and Bill Cole's here, by the way, Cole Roofing. I'll say this, Billy. My wife and I see Bob Kraft 2 or 3 times a year at owners' meetings, at Super Bowls. I know him a little bit. He'll say hello. And he did my radio show a lot at the turn of the century because when I was syndicated, the Boston station I was on, I believe it was 1510 in Boston, they were the Patriots' voice at that time. And keep in mind that the Patriots were awful in 1999, right? Like, so they were nothing, trying to get Gillette Stadium built, all that kind of stuff. And that, the thought that he was going to show up on the lawn at the Biltmore 6 weeks from now on Friday morning last week, my wife's like, well, we won't be seeing Bob. Bob won't be there. Belichick will have to take all the heat instead. And then I see him running around at the Oscars, and I'm thinking, no. He's just going to show up and pretend this never happened and say I'm innocent and thinking he can write a check big enough that the videotape will never surface, right?
Well, it does reinforce that rule that it's like the culture that exists at the top of the organization flows down through it. So
oh my God!
if your owner is running around doing things that are illegal, it sure does make the equipment guy who's underfilling the air and the balls. He's not really worried about any of that stuff. So
here's my tweet coming. What kind of a joint are you running up there in New England? You've had
right.
murderers, cheaters, deniers. Denying everything.
Every other year, there's something, and
part of being a liar and a cheater is denying it afterward, right? Kind of, sort of, right? That's part of the deal.
To me, I'm really curious to see how the NFL chooses to handle it, because they've taken some pretty hard stances on, ending guys' careers, blacklisting them. No one's ever allowed to play again because the video was so bad that, we're done with him forever.
Until Cleveland signs him 6 weeks later.
Yeah, well, and it'll be curious to see how they behave, because they have to be conscious of the fact that a whole lot of people, during the kneeling and standing saga, decided to take an opinion on the NFL that I think they had previously didn't think people would ever do. Right? We just are immune to that sort of stuff. People are going to come and they're going to buy our stuff, and it doesn't really matter. And then I think
that's what the Orioles still believe. That's still the Orioles. No, I mean you laugh, but isn't that the Orioles' marketing strategy?
Money, so it's
seriously,
hard to see. It's like a decimal place. They have the TV money. So
dude, it's 4 weeks from now they're going to play baseball. Isn't every time you go by the warehouse, isn't the bird just sort of giving you the middle finger, saying, "Yeah, we're going to show up, and yeah, the over under's 58.5 in Vegas on our wins, and yeah, we're going to charge for tickets, and well, if you want to come to a ball game and you want to smell Boog's barbecue, you got to come on down here and do it. I mean, you got to be there." And I don't even feel that. Like, it's amazing they're going to play baseball in a month. And
yeah, the amount of weirdness around that team, is pretty consistent. So at this point, I'm almost numb to it. It's just kind of like permanently weird, and I don't really understand it. And I don't know if I'll go there, and it's not on my radar, and I don't know who any of our players are, and quite frankly, I just don't think I care. It's like, I don't know.
How much fun would it be if you did know who they were? That's the question you have to ask yourself, right?
Right.
Bill Cole is here. He is Cole Roofing. They've only been doing it 100 years out there. You can find him at Cole Roofing. And, of course, I want to give you a chance to talk about Cole Roofing, but I have been invited to an event next week at the Star Academy. Ray Lewis is involved. My friend Jim Ree's involved. I'm coming out. There's some CEO robot but thing. And I called you and said, Bill, tell me about this Star Academy place. So I know you can at least give the elevator speech that as many awful things that go on here we wake up to every day in Baltimore, there are positive things, Baltimore positive things going on. And this is up in Timonium, right? So give me the Star Academy story, because I do know you know more about it. And somewhere out there, somebody has a really smart kid that wants to think to the future and have a job 15 years from now. And the robotics thing, it is the future from everything I hear, right?
Yeah, so Star Academy was kind of born out of the idea that if you are by default taking your kid to soccer or basketball or baseball or lacrosse and they're really not into it, and there's this other thing over here that they would really rather do, but there was nowhere to take your kid to do that.
You know where my mom took me, incidentally? She loved watching Lawrence Welk, and she wanted me to tap dance. So that's where she took me in 1974. That lasted about 15 minutes. I remember her taking me up there.
That makes a lot of sense.
No, honey, you don't want to play Little League. You don't want to play sports with the boys. You want to go tap dance on a Saturday? And I was like, nah, I don't think so. I don't think so.
You seem to be light on your feet.
I tried the French horn. I'm a hell of a dancer. Come on, man. But I tried the French horn. What else did they have? Boy Scouts. I did Cub Scouts, Weeblos. My wife still thinks that's hilarious every time I say it. I don't know why. I never quite went to Boy Scout. I'm trying to think of all the things that they put me in, you know what I mean, to try to keep me off the streets and all that stuff, but very little of it had much to do with me getting a job later in life. I wasn't going to be a tap dancer on the Lawrence Welk show.
Right. So the Star Academy is the STEM training center where you can go and learn how to build robots, learn how to fly drones, learn how to code computers. They have leagues. They have impromptu open houses. They have, training sessions where there's a progression, start at intro and you learn and you build and you add.
Who would want to learn? Learning's no fun, right? I mean, why would we want to do that?
What is really amazing is when you get a chance to actually talk to a parent about it, it's like, hey, there's a whole bunch of people who are given scholarships for this sort of education. What's your chance? What are the chances that Johnny's going to get a football scholarship? Yeah, probably not that high. But if he knows how to win at robotics and goes into high school and gets on the robotics team and they go to the world competition and they win, when they're done that, the companies like Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin and all these, they're standing there saying, hey, look, we really want you to come to work for us. You don't even have to go to college if you don't want to, but if you want to go to college, we'll help you pay for it. And then when you come out, we want you to come to work for it. That's like, oh.
I like that better than, I ripped my knee up and I didn't go to college, right? So, right?
Well, yeah, and it just, so many of those kids and the parents, they don't know, we got to do something.
Well, these people are going to be educating me. I mean, I'm trying to figure this out. Intro to robotics. It looked a little bit like Legos and a little bit like what were those things we put together when we were kids? Like model things and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's different for the ages of the kids. The Legos has a robotic program, and they build those. And then there's a program called VEX. That's the one that most of the high schools compete in. I mean, it's literally liken it to our obliviousness to the esports world.
Yes.
Right? Like, that whole stuff exists for robotics, too. So, all these high schools have teams, and all these teams go and compete, and some schools have multiple teams.
Well, they've asked me to compete at something, and I literally wrote back to a bunch of lawyers and said I signed on the dotted line to sign up to do this, and I don't even know what I signed up to do, which I think lawyers want me to do, quite frankly. But
right.
But I'm Star Academy, building minds and futures.
They will take good care of you. They will show you how to play, and it's not as scary as you might think. It's very natural.
Well, I'm looking on the website. This kid's going to kick my ass. I mean, I'm looking at him right here. He's got little tanky, droney things and Lego-y things here. Star-Academy.com, robotics. I'm going out to do an event next week. I'll be socialing about that. And I know Bill Cole always socials about that. Cole Roofing, tell him what you do about getting up on roofs here this time of the year. And I saw the weirdest phenomenon on video of the ice breaking in Chicago and the ice tsunami coming up onto the lake. And all I can think about is all that same sort of ice can form on roofs, right? Like this time of the year in cold places. And probably really bad stuff happens that keeps you in business at Cole Roofing and has for 100 years. Yes.
Before I forget on the Star Academy thing, go and look if you're curious about their summer camps, because it's a really nice way to sort of ease into the concept. And I know they're selling those with a discount right now, so it might be good for people.
Okay, it says right here, camps, schools out camps, summer camps. Yeah. I'm on it. It's a tab.
It's just a way for people to kind of dip your toe in and try and understand what that world's like, because it's different. We haven't never really had it and been able to buy it before.
They got a picture of the same kid on the front page that was going to kick my ass on this page too, so I can go to summer camp and have this kid kill me too at these games. Right. So this is fine. Kid's 12.
And in the meantime, if I can figure out how to get them to build robotic roofers, then that'll make it easier for me to fix your problems. Commercial roofers for 100 years, everything from repairing leaks to roof replacements on shopping centers, hospitals, local schools. We do a lot of school work. Have a really robust service department that loves to help people solve their problems. So any of your commercial roof needs, we're happy to help.
All right, dude. I was going to hit you on some Orioles. I had a whole bunch of combine, the job interviews, John Harbaugh speaking to Fellowship of Christian Athletes next week, so I'm going out for that. So we got a lot of things going on, but I'll get to that next week.
Yeah, but I think we hit the most important stuff, and that's when life intersects with sports, we need to call attention to it, because everyone needs to realize that we have to deal with the life stuff. And Bob Kraft needs to step up and help with what he is now aware of. And human trafficking is a major problem, and we need to be doing things about it.
By the way, you know who is heavily involved in fighting human trafficking, like, I mean, at the top level. Kevin Malone, the former assistant general manager of the Orioles, right? And Kevin texted me back. Tom Lavera wrote a piece about it. So Kevin Malone's going to join us this week and talk about human trafficking and talk about Bob Kraft and talk about these places and whether they exist down the street from our house and whether you drive by them on any given day and may or may not know it. So there you have it. Cole Roofing, always with us. Billy, appreciate you, man. We'll see you next week, all right?
You too, brother. Thank you.
All right. If you got any tips on the Star Academy and you want to build my mind and my future, throw me an email. Nasty at WNST.net. We're out on Facebook and LinkedIn and Snapchat and Instagram and everywhere you are. Terp stuff, Combine stuff, Oriole stuff. Luke's here. I'm here. We're here. We're all here. Nasty at WNST.net is the best way to find me. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.